I want to finish up this question about the numbers and about how much racism or discrimination exists in the world today. Hey, there are some seats down in the front section, by the way, so come down if you want to get a seat. And we're going to start this out by our man, Sean the activist. Dude, come on down to the front. Bring your stuff with you because you're going to be down here the whole class. All right. Who sent out this interesting tweet in the middle of the conversation that we were having that Jonathan sparked about what we thought about how much racism or discrimination there was in the United States compared to other places in the world. And Jonathan was saying that there are a lot of places around the world with lots and lots and lots of discrimination and racism and so on. And you can use the stand or not use the stand. Okay, have a seat, my friend. Sean the activist.
Hey,
so,
everyone.
you
Throw me a follow, y'all. What's good, CJ?
So you're back in the front.
I'm back in the front.
So here's what's going to happen, my friend. I'm pulling you out on this. Oh yeah, these are my notes, man. I'm pulling you out on this because I just get the sense that you can do it. You have something to say, and I'm going to push you a little bit in different directions. Okay, we'll see how far I push you, just depending on how you respond. But I might push you really hard because, once again, this class is about thinking on different sides of the plates spectrum. So listen. So we were talking about how much racism there is in the U.S., and you said this: America, the least racist country on earth. On Earth. So what led you to say that?
On Earth?
Yeah, dude. That's what you wrote. So what led you to that? Take yourself back to Thursday.
Yes, I don't know who it was that was.
It was your man Jonathan right here.
Who's Jonathan? That's you? Oh, okay. What's going on? You said Jonathan? How you doing, Jonathan? I'm Sean. Nice to meet you, man. This is a great way to meet.
So I'd
yeah,
like you to tweet that, because that's a tweet. That's the kind of thing that an activist would say. What led to that?
I mean, just hearing a statement within that kind of whether it was like America is one of the. I heard America is the racist, or least racist, up there when I was up there. And yeah, I mean, I've been to countries that I wouldn't even consider as remotely close to as racist as the United States.
By the way, you don't have to. You can just take that off if it's easier.
Thank you. That was a lot better. But yeah, no, I've been to countries that I would consider not even as close to remotely racist as the United States, in my opinion, right?
Okay, on your opinion, on the basis of what? What did you see?
On the basis of my experiences.
Basis of what?
Of my experiences.
Okay,
as being both black and a male in the United States.
Okay, can you give me an example
of racism that I've experienced?
Yeah, of a place where you feel like is less racist than the U.S., based on your experience.
Almost the entire continent of Africa. I mean, I'm Nigerian, right? And when I go to places like Nigeria, for example, you don't experience things like racism because it's a whole different spectrum, a whole different amount of people. Or you could take countries that don't have. Let's use countries that don't even have black people, right? Or like that aren't majority minoritized people that would be in the United States. So countries like the UK, for example, let's just throw that out there, right? There is clearly racism and prejudice within the United Kingdom. That's a given, right? My mother was raised for most of her adult life in the United Kingdom before she came to the United States, before I was born here. And I was partly raised there for like early childhood kind of years. And even now, when you would go back now, when you would see, there are just intrinsic differences with how both prejudice and racism kind of manifest within places like the United Kingdom, within places like France, for example, right? Countries like that. Within more modernized, quote unquote, parts of Europe and stuff like that than the United States, at least using those parallels. And then, of course, you have Africa as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so these are just random thoughts, right?
Sir.
So I don't, how old are you?
21.
Okay, you're 21. All right, so I'm not pulling an age card or any kind of card on you right now. I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm going to make a point. So these are random thoughts. It's cool. You probably have traveled more than the average person. The average person in this room, I would imagine, right? How many countries you've been to?
4, 5, 6, 5, 6,
5 or 6. Okay.
8.
And they're thoughts, right? You're not saying, hey, I've done this study, I've looked at this research and that research and all of this kind of stuff, right? So you're not saying that, and I wouldn't expect you to say that, but they're thoughts. What would you have to do to make that statement, right? To make the statement that either A, the U.S. is the most racist, or B, it's in the middle, or it's the least racist, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, what would you have to know? What would you really have to know?
In terms of,
as opposed to just throwing an opinion out there, right? Like, what would you really have to know? Like, if you were teaching this class,
yeah,
and people are watching, and not only the people in here, like, so presumably you have to say something meaningful, mm-hmm. and then people are watching and they're checking on everything you say and so on. Like, what would you have to know to be able to make the statement that the U.S. is the least racist, the most racist, or let's say right exactly in the middle?
I mean, you need to have a kind of concrete definition of what racism is.
Okay, we start there. What else?
For the first off. Second of all, know the ways in which racism manifests in the United States and in other places as well, and like the rate at which racism, quote unquote, occurs, or like racist incidents would occur in the United States or other countries as well.
Uh-huh.
Essentially understanding how racism not only is manifested here in the United States, but in places across the world, at least, I would say. Or places with the majority population of creating the opportunity for racism to kind of manifest itself. So,
okay.
Countries like I was saying before, the United Kingdom, France, places like that. Yeah.
All right. So, for example, one of the things that you mentioned about the UK or about Nigeria, right? Because we could talk. So, talk about racism. When we talk about racism in the U.S., it tends to have a specific kind of meaning to it.
Yeah.
Right. And generally, when people talk about racism in the U.S., we're talking about racism and discrimination as being kind of like the same thing. You use one word, you use the other word. It doesn't really matter. The people use, when they say like, such and such a policy is racist, they oftentimes are really, what they want to say is discriminatory, right? It's like it leads to unequal outcomes, right? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes people say something is discriminatory when they really want to say it's racist. I mean, we throw it around. But the idea being that we use racist as a particular form of discrimination between one group and another group. And around the world, we often don't call it racism, but we call it ethnic conflict. And there's ethnic conflict everywhere in the world, right? Including in Nigeria. There's a ton of ethnic conflict in Nigeria, right? So, and there's even racism, meaning, if the classic definition of racism is treating people or believing people are unequal on the basis of physical characteristics, right? That's the classic definition. So black Americans, as we talked about on the first day, have, I forget, is it Ashley? What was your name? What's your name? You talked about this on the first day. What's your name? Yeah. What is it? Chastity? Destiny, dude. All right. Good. So Destiny said on the first day that, you know what? I played drum, just so you all know, like I was a drummer from like the age of 12, and I destroyed my ears. I have this amazing tinnitus in my ears. It just rings constantly. So it's exactly the tinnitus. And so it's really hard for me sometimes to hear things. But it's the sound of cymbals ringing in my ears. In the United States, black Americans have kind of taken that definition and turned it to say, hey, look, actually racism is a unique form of negative stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination committed by the dominant group against a less dominant group. And we use that to refer to white racism against black and brown people.
But is it just black Americans that are using that definition, though?
No, other people, well,
Because
nobody around the world uses it that way. In the UK a little bit, but mostly people around the world don't use it. But in the United States, no, it's not just black Americans, but it's definitely people who lean on the left and have sort of adopted critical race theory.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Because I don't know, I would say it's a bit dangerous to kind of limit it to just, not even just people in America, but black Americans specifically as well, but also kind of limiting it to just America, because, I mean, critical race theory doesn't just kind of stop and end in the United States, you know what I mean?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it emerged out of the UK is where critical race theory really started. Yeah. No, I'm just talking about this one particular piece of it, okay? So the issue is, for you when you write this, as shown the left act, critical race theorist activist type of thing, right? When you write that, that's the kind of, that's like, okay, that's cool. It's a funny thing. It was funny. I read it. It was.
Yo, Soulja Boy was hot back then too. So it was just.
Dude, it was
that's
hopping.
The first thing
You got 28 people right after class who gave it
shout out to Soulja Boy though.
Yeah, it was
Young
cool.
Draco.
And yet, look, man, the problem for me, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is, look, maybe the United States is actually the least racist country in the world. I don't know. You got to look at the data. You have to look at the data. And you got to say, okay, how do you define this? How do you not define it? Maybe it's the most racist. Maybe there's more discrimination here than anywhere in the world. I don't know. I mean, I have some idea, but we have to look at the data. So I'm just bringing you down because we're going to look at the data together, and then we're just going to go back and forth, okay?
Data on racism.
So let me ask you the basic question: how much racism and discrimination is happening in the United States? Just come up with
like a number?
Just come up with anything, just really fast in a sentence. How much is happening?
You're asking an open-ended question.
Yeah, I know. Give me an.
So I mean, relative to what?
Relative to what? Just how much is happening, dude?
You can't just ask what.
How much is happening? Now, how much racism is there in the U.S.?
In terms of.
Go ahead, keep going.
No, I'm saying I'm asking you.
You got to come up with an answer.
You asked me a bad question.
No, it's a great question because now I'm forcing you. So what you're telling me is I can't answer that question. I don't know. I got to come up with parameters for defining the terms. That's good. That's cool. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so then the next question becomes so we know there's racism, we know there's discrimination.
Okay.
That we know. How much is there? That we got to decide, right? That's where the research. People spend their entire lives studying this stuff. So all I don't study it per se, but I study other people's research, and I go with that. So let's look at some of the data for, at the very least, who experiences it, right?
Okay.
All right, so Asian Americans, this is just some stuff on workplace discrimination from the U.S. Department of Labor. Now, if you think about labor and jobs, okay, we're going to expect most any questions that we have about discrimination and who experiences it and so on, we're going to expect it's black people. If you ask the average white person would say, it's definitely going to be more black people are going to say they were discriminated against than anybody else. And here we see it's Asians. But these are how many report in the workplace, right? Over their lifetime. Not like in a year, not in a month, not in the past week or whatever, right? But okay. So that's a fair amount. 25% of Asian workers, 8% of black workers. Now, this is the U.S. Department of Labor. So we can find other research that show that these numbers are different, it's higher, it's lower, it's whatever the case is. Look, even 4% of white workers, right? So, okay, cool. Let's look at this. Bullying. Asians. Bullying because of your ancestry. Not just bullying per se. Asians are actually less likely to be bullied than any other group, but more likely to be bullied because they're Asian. So it's like, damn, look at that. Okay. Maybe you would expect that. Would you expect that? What do you think? If I were to ask you who's more likely to get bullied? Because of their ancestry? Yeah, because of their ancestry in the United States.
So, I mean, like I said before, I'm Nigerian, right? So for me, I'm coming from a place of having experienced that being African in general, and not even going to school with that many Asian people in general.
When did you come here the first time?
I was born in the United States.
Okay, so did you experience bullying here?
I just said yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay,
being
got it.
African, being Nigerian.
Being African.
Right, growing
By
up.
who? African Americans,
I
white
went to,
people?
yeah, I mean, I went to school for a majority of my life with other African American people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so
That's how that works.
you're part of the 7.1%.
I didn't report it. So
Yeah, okay, got you. Yep, okay. Yep.
I was taking into account people who
Yep. And one would
reported.
expect, so when you think about who reports and doesn't report, from what I know of Asian cultures, and we're going to talk about this, I would expect Asians to be least likely to report.
Sheesh. I don't know about that one, Chief. I don't want to say that.
Any thoughts on that, anybody? Who do you think's most likely to report? I would expect, who are you going to expect to be most likely to report? Black people.
Hell no.
Most likely to report? Yeah?
So that
Yeah.
Let me
Go ahead.
So for me, like within bona fide black communities, especially,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would say that, right? I want to use that too. People aren't going to go out and say, "Oh, I was getting bullied in class today," blah blah blah. Like nobody's going to say that.
No.
for-
This
for
is
certain
when you sit
reasons.
down with people and be like, all right, what's going on, right? We're not just like saying, hey, can you raise your hand? I mean, we're sitting down with people. They're sitting down with kids. They're going at it privately. So like, okay. So you all wouldn't expect black people.
A little
Yeah?
black is
Who
going
would
to
you
tell.
expect?
A little
Hang
black
on.
is going to tell you was getting bullied in class.
Oh, come on, man. Who would you expect, bro? Wait, hang on. Who would you expect? Go ahead.
White kids?
White dude's going to report being bullied?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then look at the
They're-
white numbers are the lowest, which means white people then evidently are not. Either something's off because white people aren't getting bullied or whatever. Okay, yep, exactly. They don't get bullied for being white. Okay, but most of the bullying that's happening is happening within one's group or across one's group, right? In your case, it's within one's group. Not really, because you're Nigerian. So, all right, so let's go with this one. Have you ever been personally discriminated against because of your ancestry, gender, while trying to buy or rent, trying to rent or purchase a house? Highest number of black people. Yeah. You would say it's a given. White people, 5%, Asians, 25%, Hispanics, 31%. Look at LGBTQ, 22%, women, 16%. So you've been personally discriminated against. So what's the problem with the data as we have thus far, Matt? What's the problem? Does this demonstrate, look at the class right here, my friends. Does this demonstrate to everybody in the class that discrimination is definitely happening?
All the data we presented today.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Because?
like I said before, what is unreported, especially for me, that's my biggest issue, is I'm not really taking into account actual situations that are going unreported. And
So
it's mostly
only
just-
that?
it's
What,
mostly just-
okay.
it's mostly
What
just
else?
data.
What else is a problem with these data?
I don't know, I feel like you're looking for a specific answer. I don't know.
Well,
what you mean by that.
the problem is it's self-reported. So that doesn't mean it happened. Just because somebody says they were discriminated against doesn't mean they were discriminated against.
These are self-reported.
Just because
these right here are self-reported.
yeah, you're asking people, have you been discriminated against?
And it's
So
like a
here,
yes, it's like a yes or
have you
no.
been bullied? Right? It's not. These aren't people. We don't have spies in classrooms. We don't have cameras in all the rooms and all the schools and all the public places and community centers. And we're watching people and we're tracking exactly who is and isn't bullied. Right? Here, workplace, we're asking people. But that doesn't mean that they were discriminated against. They're just saying they are. Maybe
Okay, so-
there's like a big thing among
No,
Asians
yeah.
that's just saying like, hey, let's all say we were discriminated against so we can be cool or something. I
Cool.
don't
So,
know.
I mean, I was under the impression that it was more so of like these are reported cases that were actually found to actually happen.
Yeah,
right?
no,
And
these
that's what was
are all
thrown on there.
reported.
Okay.
That's all reported right there.
But I'm saying like confirmed actual cases too, but like
Well,
whoever it
you
was
know,
that
you
had
got
to
to
do
go by
that.
what people say. How can you confirm it? That's the question.
Sure.
Let's go to the next one. You ready? Illegal drug use and incarceration rates in the U.S. Now we see some data that are really pretty. Okay, so here, this is just whites and blacks. So whites represent about 70% of all the drug users in the United States, more or less, right? Because it's basically equal to your place in the population. And blacks represent about 12 to 13%. Okay, got it? Users. Now, who's in prison for drugs? Whoa, how did we go from here to here? The black people are over 40% of the people in prison for drugs. And white people who are far more likely to use drugs, illegal drugs, are less likely to be imprisoned for drugs than black people. What do you think of that, bro?
Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton,
What's that?
every other president of the United States after Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, okay, but what do you think of that? Does that demonstrate discrimination?
So if this to all of y'all doesn't demonstrate at least like internal racism from our own criminal justice system, our own law enforcement system, I don't know what else to show y'all. Like, so can I do something real quick?
Yeah.
By show of hands, and like, no, I'm not gonna snitch on y'all or whatever. Like, if you've ever like drank or like smoked in your life ever, just raise your hand.
What, weed?
Yeah, weed or drink. Just raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
No, hang on. Let me give you, I got a better one for you. Ready? You didn't see my hand go up, my friend. Look, let me ask you this. How many black people, just black people, have never, first off, do not drink? How many black people in class do not drink? How many have never smoked? Black
My
people
mom
in
watches
class.
the live stream, so
Yeah?
it's a dog.
How many white people have never smoked weed? We're talking about weed. Yeah. White people have never smoked weed. Yo. Yeah. How many of you of Asian ancestry have never smoked weed? Yeah. All right. Listen, man. Let me walk you through this. This also doesn't mean that there could be a number of reasons why black people are more likely to get thrown in jail for use and whatever it is. There could be reasons, right? We don't see a distinct cause and effect. Like, we don't see it. It's hard to make that argument. When you see the numbers are so extreme as they are, it's hard to make the argument that other things could be going on besides racism and discrimination. And yet, we can't make the argument for sure of distinct cause and effect in each one of these cases. Each case is its own unique situation. But overall, it certainly appears as though the system itself is either racist or discriminatory toward black people. Would you agree with that? It would appear from the extreme differences in these data as though the system itself is rigged against black people when it comes to being arrested and incarcerated for the use of illicit drugs. But each case is a unique case, so we don't know. I have no idea, right? Okay, let's look at this one. New York Police Department pedestrian stop and frisks. 2012, there were over 500,000 stop and frisks in New York City. 473,000 were innocent. So 89, they found nothing. So they stopped people, they frisked them, they found nothing. Right? 53% of all the people that got stopped and frisked were black. Black people are 26% of the population in New York City. 31% were Latino. Latinos, Hispanics, are 26% of the population in New York City. 10% were white. And then 6% Asian or Native American. So look, this would appear as though it's certainly a policy targeting black people. It would appear, because, come on, man, 53%.
I mean, minoritized people in general in New York.
What's that?
I said just minoritized people in general in New York.
Yeah,
so
minoritized people
Latinx people as
are
well,
being
yeah.
targeted, clearly. So the police, it appears as though, are looking for people of color more often than looking for white people. There are plenty of white people they could stop and frisk, but for some reason, when they see me, they walk past me, and they go toward you. It's more likely to happen for whatever reason, right? We could call it racism. So here's the deal, right? You can have a seat now, because now we're going to have a conversation, right? So one of the issues is that when we put data out like this, it's not a guarantee that, yes, we absolutely see racism. It's not a guarantee, yes, we absolutely see discrimination. But it's so, in some cases, so incontrovertible. It's so extreme that it would be really hard to argue that there isn't some kind of racism or discrimination going on. And that clearly black and brown people are receiving like the bad end, the negative end of the stick when it comes to these things, right? Because, look, selling weed, here's what we know about selling weed. Well, there's a difference, right? White people maybe are more likely to smoke. Maybe black people and brown people are more likely to, so we're going to go back here, are more likely to sell. But here's what we know, right? The sales figure, trafficking figures and sales figure basically mirror the use figures. So the same percentage of people sell as use. In other words, how do I say this? If 70% of people smoking weed are white, then 70% of people selling weed are white. Just like a lot of y'all in here are drug dealers and drug traffickers.
Drug what?
Dude, how many of you are drug dealers or drug traffickers? How many of you have trafficked drugs, have dealt drugs? No, I mean, well, hang on. Let me ask it again.
Y'all are really raising y'all heads?
Yo, hang on. Let me ask you
crazy.
again. How many of you bought a bag of weed? And you like get your weed and you're like, oh, you spend $60 or $80 or whatever, and then you split it up and you take it home and you sell half to your buddy. How many of you have done that? That's selling weed. So you're dealing weeds.
Yo, this is beyond
Please
me.
don't make a distinction on that.
This is beyond me.
Okay,
Oh my
so
God.
listen. So the same number of people, okay? So here's what we're going to do. The problem, my friend, is that if you're going to make an argument about discrimination, if we want to make an argument about racism, about discrimination, about prejudice, about all these things, then the issue is we got to agree on what we're talking about. Because especially for you, Sean the activist, if you want to try to convince average Americans that racism is happening in this country, you got to have a really tight argument. If you don't have a tight argument, it's not going to work. You can't just show them this kind of thing. Say, look, you know, people say they've been personally discriminated against. Like, whatever. White people don't believe that shit. You know what white people believe? White people believe that people of color, minorities, whatever it is, colored people for some white people who haven't been brought up into the recent age.
Nobody should be using colored people. Continue, though.
Dude, some people still
Continue
do.
that.
So we're talking to the people also who maybe are watching the stream who still use colored people. Whatever it is, there are a lot of people in this country who think that minorities, black people, brown people, colored people, whatever you want to say, complain too much. And they're not really experiencing this discrimination, that it's all in their heads. And so here's the problem, right? Even white people are going like, yeah, well, me too. I get discriminated against. You know, half of all white people in this country right now think that discrimination against white people is as bad or worse than discrimination against anybody of color.
Can we see people? I want to see those people in the room.
Those people aren't mostly in the room, and if they're in the room, they're not going to speak up. They would never speak up.
I would like to hear that, though.
No one's going to speak
would.
up. Dude, who in the room thinks that discrimination against white people is as bad or worse than discrimination against black people? Because there are white people in this room who started
Somebody
this
definitely
semester
does.
or even this day thinking that, and they're never going to speak up.
Thanks.
Am I right? Is there anybody who's going to raise your hand? Because you can come down here and tell us how and why you think that.
Or you could say, my uncle says this, but I don't believe
Aha.
it. Because that's what a lot of white people like to do. We like to hide behind our crazy racist family.
Okay, but listen. But here's the
If
deal.
y'all got a crazy racist Uncle Bob, come down, let
Listen.
me know.
Here's the
I'd like to hear.
problem, my friend. You ready? Here's the problem. The issue is, I'm going to speak now to those people, okay? And I'm going to speak to them in a way that I think that people can hear. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's like your tweet or like this kind of stuff. It doesn't go anywhere because you don't know. Because in the end, it may be just what you call discrimination. I don't call discrimination. What you call bullying, I don't call bullying, or vice versa. Like it doesn't rise to that level. So it's like, okay, so how are we going to talk about it? So here's what I want to do. The only way that you can really demonstrate discrimination, again, it's not by asking somebody, it's by observing it. And the only way that you can then know it's discrimination is when you've controlled for all of the variables that could be the cause of the actions that you're analyzing and that are taking place. So it's like there could be a lot of reasons why somebody would do something. And you got to control for all the ones that there could be an alternative explanation for the one that you're trying to see. Okay? So in the world of discrimination, that means we have to set up situations where people can act in one way or act in another way. And then we have to make sure that there's no alternative reason for their actions other than the fact that whatever the issue is in play. So it's racism, discrimination, like treating you differently than they treat me. And we gotta weed out all the other things so that if someone treats us differently, then we can be pretty certain it's because of the color of your skin or the color of my skin. None of these other studies do that. They point to the fact that, dude, if you get 45% of all black people saying, yeah, we feel like we've been discriminated against in the workplace, that's a large number. But not to most white people, certainly not most white people who probably voted for Trump. Then in a certain wave of white people who just aren't going to believe it. It's like, come on, this is not how the world is. The world isn't like that. You got to get people to walk over to this other place and see the world from a completely different lens and demonstrate to them and show them. But otherwise, it's like you're not going to convince anybody with things like that. Okay? So do I know that discrimination exists in this country against black people? Absolutely, unquestionably, no question about it. And I'm going to give you there are much research has been done, but I'm going to give you what I think is absolutely the best one that's ever been done. And it just demonstrates there's nothing else, okay? And to do this, I need 2 volunteers, and I need, hang on. No. I need a white guy and a black guy who look very similar, who are dressed. Are you the white dude? You could do either, right? Wait. What? No, I got you, but you could, hang on. You have glasses, but, dude, here, stand up. Dude, stand up real fast. How tall are you? 5'10"? How tall are you? Okay, hang on. Hang on a sec, bro. Any white guys up there that kind of look like this dude right here? Short hair? 5'10", 5'11"? Just an average white guy. You don't have to do anything. All you're going to do is stand. Anybody want to go with it? All right, dude. All right, let's not take the time. Come on down. We'll go with you 2 guys, even though you're a little different. All right. Meet Sean, man. What's your name, bro? Brandon?
I'm Nick.
What is it?
Nick.
Nick? Brandon. Okay, so here's what it is, bro. I'm going to walk you through this research. And if it's happening in this particular study, if it's happening here, it really is happening everywhere. And this study that I'm going to walk you through has been replicated in lots and lots of different ways and lots of places, with housing discrimination, with schooling, with interviews for jobs, with interactions with the police, with interactions with judges, with interactions everywhere, just on and on and on. But it's the only way to make it. So these are going to be your resumes, okay? Got it? All right, man. Now, here's where we're going to roll. We get a couple guys like this, and they're exactly alike. These guys aren't exactly alike. It takes me too long to find 2 people. But imagine they're wearing the exact same shoes, the exact pants, the exact shirts. They're almost alike. The same colors, same everything. They both have glasses or not. So, Nick, take your glasses off just for a hot second. All right, so they're both the same height. Bend down just a little bit. Okay, right? They're exactly the same height, same haircuts, same teeth. Teeth matter, right? Teeth are a sign of social class. It's really important. All right, you can now stand. We teach them to shake hands in the same way. So, got it. And a little more. Just do 3 shakes. 1, 2. Got it. You grab too hard. Lighten up a little bit. 3 shakes. All right,
give him a
cool. You
fire
push
handshake,
back a
bro.
little hard on my hands, so not so much. Okay, got it? Look in my eyes for the same amount of time. Everything is trained. Everything. You got it? They're exactly the same. We train them. They walk alike. They walk the same gait, right? Everything. So when they walk into a job interview, it's exactly the same. So you're going to walk in the job interview like this. Your arms are going to swing. You're both going to wear a watch. You're both going to do this. You're both going to do that. It's exactly the same. The only difference between them is the color of their skin. Their resumes are exactly the same. And we're going to send them and have them apply for jobs. And we're going to see how well they do, right? And so in the world, in the United States, so Sean, so you're going to say, who's going to get treated unfairly?
Right now. Like,
Yeah,
period.
which one of these two guys, from your view of the world?
I don't think anybody would off a surface level if everything's...
Wait, hang on. You think they're going to get treated fairly? What kind of an activist are you, bro?
Hold on, wait. So I feel like there's kind of like a spectrum to what this is and what we're looking at. First of all, what kind of job are they applying to?
That's
What
just
are
an
they
entry-level
applying for?
job.
It's like a regular, like,
Yeah, entry-level job.
cashier, McDonald's
All
type
sorts
job?
of stuff. Yeah, all sorts. Lumberyard and here and there and where. But it could be high-ranking job. It doesn't matter. We can replicate it anywhere we want. But let's just go. Are they going to be treated fairly?
I don't know. I'm going to think it all the way through. Because, I mean, there's too much to look at off the surface and just be like, who's going to be treated unfairly. So, for example, I want to take an example. So I'm working for IBM after I graduate, right? But I'm taking into account the privilege I have of being at Penn State, right? And also being able to have a college degree, a college education, also having internships and other things like that, right? And I don't know what exactly they're applying for or what it is that they're trying to go for, but I can't.
They're applying for the exact same jobs, my friend.
Okay. But also taking into account their experiences within college, their experiences
Dude,
within
they're
other
exactly
work
the same, my friend.
They're-
Their
yo.
resumes are the same. Everything is the same about them. They're just going in and applying for the job. They're dropping off their resume. They're saying, hi, how are you? Here it is. Here's my resume. Let's go. They're doing a very quick interview. It's all done. Are they going to get treated the same way? This is America.
I'm not gonna hold you. No, but it's. I don't know. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm gonna say no for now. But the way you're.
How much? Can I help you? Can I help you with something, bro?
The way you're putting it is weird, dog.
How different is the treatment gonna be? Who's gonna get treated better? Nick or what's your name, bro? Brandon. Nick or Brandon? Who's going to get treated better?
You're Brandon?
Nick.
Off the surface, Nick, right? But.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not done. Hold on. Off the surface, Nick, right? If just looking at random interview, random person, boom, it's going to be Nick. We got to take into account also the type of person that's interviewing them, number one. Who's interviewing them? What type of people they are? What type of place that they're interviewing at, what type of company they're interviewing
Okay,
for.
here, let me help you with that.
There's a lot
When
of
we do
variables,
enough of these audit studies, and they're not just interviewing at 10 places. They're
Yeah.
interviewing at, like, let's say, hundreds. And we can replicate this in thousands of places.
Okay. So it's a broader, okay, good. So it's a broader scale. So off a broader scale, yeah. You said Dick? Okay, my bad, I forgot. Yeah, okay, so off a broader scale, if we're looking at like a case of like 1,000 different jobs in 1,000 different places, yeah, of course Nick is going to be treated differently than
How much differently?
Brandon, right?
How much is he going to benefit from being white?
Whatever like a good sizable advantage is, because right, everything is kind of like open ended. So I don't even know. What was it?
Dude,
What are you
listen, let me
doing?
help you with something, man. First off, understand that the classic American success idea here is that they're going to be treated equal. In the United States, if you work hard, you go to Penn State, you get good grades, you get your degree, you do what you have to do, you dress decently, you speak decently, you do all the things you're supposed to do decently, you're going to be treated the same. That's the American dream here, okay?
And that's why I'm asking like for more of a background, because you just explained a whole bunch of different privileged kind of backgrounds in one.
Yeah.
So I'm asking like where they're coming from, like what their experiences are, and like what they're applying for. Too,
But that doesn't matter here, dude. Right now, this is an experiment. This is a research project, okay? And I'm telling you how it worked out. So we control for everything. So watch this,
Okay.
okay? Man, you don't sound like a critical race guy. You sound like a conservative white guy who doesn't believe there's any racism. Like, well, I'm not really
Jesus
sure which one's
Christ.
going to get discriminated against. All right, so,
Yo,
all right, so
never
here we go.
disrespect me like
No,
that
let's
again.
go. Here's Medea right
Oh,
here.
my God.
Most desirable applicant is going to be the white guy. Going to be Nick right here. Okay? We know that. So here's what they did, by the way. Let me go back to it real fast. They took turns as they went in. And sometimes the white guy had a criminal record, felony conviction, and sometimes the black guy had a criminal record. That was on the resume. It's like, yeah, I got a felony record, and I got a felony record. They would just alternate back and forth, okay? Got it? And so who's going to be the most desirable candidate? Well, it's going to be the white guy without a felony record. Not a question, right? We can just assume there's... Well, it is a question, because for many Americans, my friend, many Americans think that all things being equal, if they're exactly the same, people aren't going to discriminate, because discrimination is a thing that happened in the past. But people who are thinking about race and discrimination and all these things are going to say, nah, man, come on, this guy is going to get discriminated against, at least sometimes. How often, though? How often? That's the question. So the black guy, who's the second most desirable candidate? This guy without a criminal record, or this guy with a criminal record? Which one? Everything's the same.
See, I knew he was going to do this shit. That's why I asked you what I asked you before. So, boom. I mean, okay, again, nothing's changed, right? Off the surface, we're talking about a regular case, like nothing's changed. It's still going to be Nick regardless. Now,
You still think
you
Nick
taking-
is going to be
Whoa.
more desirable than him?
you said
Go
an
ahead.
entry level job, like a regular job. McDonald's hires fellas all the time, so nothing's changed. It's still going to be Nick regardless, off the surface.
You think even Nick with a criminal record is going to, a felony conviction is still going to be more highly valuable than this guy who's exactly like him?
Sam, what'd I just
completely
say?
like him?
What'd I just say? Yes. Listen, again, entry level jobs in the United States of America today, for the most part, just trying to work with people who are returning citizens and things like that, take people with criminal records. So with Nick already being white and being a man at the same time, being a white male with a criminal record, which really isn't an issue if we're gonna keep it a stack, really isn't an issue. So if he's applying to somewhere like, again, McDonald's.
Okay, so
and all that,
are
he's
you
good.
ready, everybody, class? This is Sean the activist talking, the black activist guy, who's
what?
giving you a load of stuff about, yeah, but it doesn't matter because in the end, the white guy gets the benefit and so on and so forth, right? Who do you think is gonna be second most desirable, you or him?
Wait, the most desirable or the second most desirable?
The second most desirable.
I thought you were saying the most desirable the whole time.
No, the most desirable is him.
Okay, that's what I said.
The second most desirable
Okay,
is which
okay,
one? This
okay.
guy with a criminal record? This guy with a criminal record, or this guy without? Or no, it's the black guy without a criminal record, or the white guy with a criminal record.
The most desirable person is the
Is
white
this
guy
guy
is the white
without
guy-
a criminal
is the
record.
white guy without a criminal record. The second most desirable person is the white guy with a criminal record. The third most desirable person is him without a criminal record. In that order.
So wait, it's this guy. Oh yeah, okay, I got you. Okay,
that
all
order.
right,
You
good.
understand?
So who do you think? Who thinks second most desirable? You with a criminal record, or him without a criminal record?
Like, what do I think? Statistically, it really is,
No,
or
like,
who
yeah,
it should
no, what
be?
is it?
Exactly.
No, what do you think it
what do I
is?
think
Not
it
what
is,
you
what
think it should be.
right, where I at? Okay, so, I don't know. I'd say, I'd like to think it'd be the black person without a criminal record, because I feel like a criminal record, like regardless, is a red flag. But from the way this is going, I feel it's probably the white guy with the criminal record.
What do you think?
To me, I feel like if it was like a job that like required like a college degree or something, like I've noticed like a lot these days, a lot of these companies have like diversity programs, like they're fishing out to get more diverse candidates. But if it's just an entry level job, like, I don't know, like something in a restaurant or something like that, I'd probably still have to agree with what he's saying.
You would say it's the white guy
Is it like a
with
felony?
a criminal record. Felony, man.
Like he killed somebody.
Nah,
Like
dude.
that, or-
No.
'Cause
It's
it's
no, it's a felony
like
drug.
he's doing.
It's a felony drug conviction.
Yo, he's
Drug-
good.
if it's a
my
drug
God.
guy, he's fine.
He's good. He's fine.
He's fine.
The black guy's fine.
The white guy
guy's
with
fine.
the
White guy's
okay.
white guy's all right. Okay, well here, let me show you the data. So here it is. The white guy. This is percent receiving callbacks. The white guy without a criminal record, 34% of white guys without a criminal record. 70% of white guys with a criminal record get called back. 14% of black guys without a criminal record, or without a criminal record, get called back. That means the white guy with the criminal record, the felony drug conviction, is more desirable, has more opportunities than the black guy without
Told you.
any kind of criminal conviction.
Trying
And
to tell
here's
ya.
the problem, bro. I'm giving you something, okay? I'm giving you something. My friends, look, here. The only difference right here, this is an experimental study. We send them in, we see how many callbacks they get. It's really basic. The only difference, we can do this with Latinos too, by the way. The only difference is the color of their skin. Everything is the same. And what that means is the following. I just take the average white guy in class, whoever it is. It doesn't really matter, dude. Dude, this guy right here, look, stand up, bro. What's your name, bro? Russell. Look at Russell here. Russell has, Sean, I'm making your argument for you, right? Look at Russell right here. Just doesn't matter what he does. If I match him up with a black guy in class, or a brown guy even, but let me just stay with a black guy in class who's just like him, has the same GPA, looks like him, walks like him, talks like him, acts in a similar way, has been involved in the same groups on campus, takes the same leadership positions, does whatever it is. If I match him up against that person, we send him into the same jobs upon graduation. He's done everything he's supposed to do, and the person I match him with has done everything he has been supposed to do. He's supposed to do at Penn State, right? They tell you, right? Do it, man. Go see your advisors and go do this and go do internships and if you did this, if Russell did the same things as just the next somebody else I find in this classroom, and they go through 4 years here exactly together, Russell has a benefit of having white skin. And this right here shows you that. And we replicate these studies over and over and over again, and we see the same things. Thanks, dude. And Sean, your take, here's the deal, right? Where black activists go wrong, in my humble opinion,
Jesus Christ.
as a white man, to any activist, anybody who's trying to make an argument for discrimination, you can't, this stuff back here doesn't make an argument for discrimination. It doesn't. Because what happens is the person sitting out in this world right here is saying like, here, let me have a seat right here, man. The average person, and I'm not talking about just white people, I'm talking about black people and brown people who see that stuff, what the dialogue in their head is, yeah, but whatever, that's just because people report it more, or they think it. It's all in your head. It's all in your head, man. Come on. Just like
But that
buckle
doesn't
up.
invalidate
Make it happen.
those. But that doesn't invalidate that at all, though.
What's that?
So people, okay, so
No,
Here's
dude,
my-
what I'm telling you is
No, I
this is
understand-
what
I understand.
happens in people's heads.
I understand that. And my issue with that, though, is that doesn't invalidate the fact that people are still discriminated against regardless of what people would say or think about that up there, and people getting arrested for drug offenses, and people and there being disparities against people who get arrested and don't get arrested. There's no invalidation to this.
No,
right here,
dude,
just because
I
of
know
what
there
you
isn't an invalidation of that, but here's
So
the
then- so
problem.
then so
Dude,
there is an
no,
argument,
listen,
so-
my friend, here's the problem. You don't know nearly enough of what you need to know. You would need to know to sit down and take this graph right here. The average student in this class, certainly, the average American, and the average person who's not studying this stuff on a regular basis, you don't know nearly enough about those data to make a really coherent, thoughtful, good argument to this person who's sitting over here saying, yeah, but you know what, there's a lot of things going on here, and I don't really know like what it is, and like, you know, you're just basically talking, and your words are going in one ear and out the other. And so if you want to make the argument, you got to really be thoughtful about how to make the argument, or you just go to this kind of study right here. There it is. You can't argue that. There's nothing good. Look, if it's happening here, it's happening everywhere. It's happening when different students in this town are trying to rent an apartment downtown, are applying for a job at Walmart, are going to get a loan to buy a car. who are trying to submit their security deposit, who knows, who are applying for an internship. And yeah, okay, but we have this thing called affirmative action, and we'll talk about that, the ins and outs of that, but most affirmative action doesn't come into play in most places. This stuff is happening. But the issue is, you know, Brandon, right? Brandon might experience it some way, but like Nathan? Nick. Yeah, same thing. Nick. You changed your name, right? All right. So Nick here, I am not going to experience it. Russell isn't going to experience it. Russell's going to go apply for a job. Look, white people. Listen to me for a second. Russell over here is going to go apply for a job, and he's going to get the job or not get the job. And it's never going to enter his mind that he got the job because he's white. That Nick is never, it's never going to enter his mind that his whiteness helped him get that job. Whereas you're going to be thinking about it, but you still won't know. Sean's going to be thinking about it, and he still won't know. And so one of the things that I want to say, look, I don't know how much is happening, although this is pretty serious, because when you start talking about people's jobs and people's livelihoods and so on, this is serious. And this is affirmative action for white people. This is amazing. Like Nick just got affirmative action. He's doing the same thing right here, but his skin right here, this is affirmative action. He didn't ask for it. Like Russell, his skin's affirmative action. My skin's affirmative action. He's not asking for it, but this is real. And what I find is that a lot of people who are on the left and are trying to make arguments for discrimination, right? And like this is like why I brought you up, because your tweet's really funny, right? But look, this is not funny. This is real. And you can try to break this down in 1,000 different ways, but you can't. And everywhere we put hidden cameras, and everywhere we kind of study we do the audit study stuff, and whatever we do, everywhere we do it, we see this kind of stuff. We see it against women. We see it against people with disabilities. We see it against people with even slight accents. We see it against Jewish people. We see it against any number of different minorities. It's like, man. So what do the numbers say? Is there racism? Is it always happening? No, it's not always happening. But you know like how white people, well, Sean, this is where I was getting at you. You guys can, do you have anything you want to say? Wait, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Just looking at this and thinking about yourself, how does it feel knowing that you will face this?
I mean, my father actually, he was in investment banking during the 1990s, and like that, high finance is like a field where you do see a lot more like white male dominance, so to say, within the field. So, I mean, he talked to me about it a lot because I do want to go into investment banking, or I either want to go into like sales and trading, and that's a field right now.
Go ahead, King. Do your thing.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's like predominantly a white field right now, and I mean, like when you go through the interviewing process, like even here at campus with the Nittany Lion Fund, something I want to do that. Even there's still like a lot of white males there. So, I mean, it's not something that is shocking to me, but I mean, it's definitely something to think of.
So here's the question that people have, and majority people have. Does it lead you to not work as hard?
No, honestly, it makes me like want to work harder and just show that I'm definitely capable of doing everything there.
Let's talk about it. Talk about it.
So, because here's what happens. You ready? This is the narrative that happens with a lot of people in the majority. We'll be like, oh, well, you spend all your time see, if you talk about it, you're complaining about it. And if you're complaining about it, then that's all the time you spend complaining. You could actually be working hard. But when you complain about it, evidently, what's going to happen? And this is a narrative that I hear over and over and over again. What's actually going to happen is you're just going to rely on affirmative action, or you're going to rely on white people's guilt, or you're going to rely on somebody else coming along and helping you, because instead of working really hard, you were just actually kind of complaining.
No, like I would say that not necessarily that being true for everyone, but I feel like a lot of people do rely on, like I was saying before, like the diversity programs, like, okay, well, they're going to notice me because I'm black, and then from there I can just go on. But a lot of people, I guess, aren't really just trying to work and do what they need to do to get to where they want to be. So,
Well, that's true of white people, right?
yeah. I mean, I feel like I know this is like a race thing, but like at the same time, I feel like that's just true with like all people. Like,
Dude, I don't know, man. I remember last fall I was walking down, I was leaving campus, and I was walking down Frat Row, and there was like this fraternity there it was a Wednesday night or something, white fraternity, a bunch of white guys out having like tricycle races, drinking beer and stuff, right?
Jesus Christ.
And I'm thinking, that's pretty serious. If you're serious about your career, that's what you want to do on a Wednesday. And come on, man. It's like the same thing everywhere. So I'm like, I know you just right there said, yeah, well, maybe some people do. Well, so do white people. So does everybody. Not work as hard as they could work and do. It's definitely true of some black people. Come on, man. I got black students right in here that you didn't do your pack-back thing this past week. And I'm like, seriously?
Hey, you better chill.
WTF?
Yeah. Let's talk
Really
about it.
simple.
Yeah, they did it. Let's talk about it.
Did you not do yours last weekend? All right, there are some
let's talk
people
about
in
it.
here that
Let's
didn't
talk
do
about
it.
it.
And
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
did
come
it.
on, man. And
See,
there
you did
are
it.
brown people and there are white people who didn't do it. So it's like all over the place.
All
Bro,
right, CJ
let me
did it,
ask
but
you
the rest
this.
of us did it. What you talking about?
Yo, man, don't call yourself out. If you did your backpack thing, you're all right. Listen, how does it feel for you knowing that if you compete against him solely on if you're exactly the same, just on the basis of your skin, there are going to be a lot of instances where there are going to be listen, man, you ready? There are going to be some instances where there's some affirmative action program in place, or the company or the firm or whatever is really looking for a person of color, and so they're going to like maybe reach for him over him. There are instances of that. There's no question about it. But affirmative action programs are really, as much as you see them advertised everywhere, relatively few jobs are earned on the basis of affirmative action programs.
Boom.
Yeah, it's advertised. Come to our company. Come to IBM. Wait, where are you working? At IBM?
IBM.
Dude, come to IBM. They advertise this great affirmative action program
front
because they
page.
want to hire all these black and brown people. But that doesn't mean you're going to benefit from it. They might be hiring one person under their affirmative action program, and it might be a woman. So that doesn't mean like he gets hired, but who's to say it's affirmative action? Just because the program exists doesn't mean a lot. So, bro, how's it feel knowing that push comes to shove, like your skin's kind of nice?
I don't know. I mean, it makes me feel like sad because like God knows I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't choose to be white, so like, you know what I mean? Like it makes me upset that like, you know, my brothers and sisters of like other races can't like experience those things for something that I didn't like. You know, I didn't do anything to like deserve that. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know, it just makes me upset.
So this is the problem with white people. The question then becomes is what should we do? So there are all sorts of white people sitting, Sean.
Yep.
There are all sorts of white people sitting out here in the class right now saying,
What's
so
good,
what
John?
should I do?
What's the word?
What
You're
should I do?
asking me?
No, I'm just
Oh.
saying, like, what would you say? Dude, what would you say to them?
To who? To him?
No, to the
Okay,
white
that's
people
him.
who are saying, what should we do?
I mean, I feel like it's really not that simple because like racism, like within businesses and like within corporate America, like it's been a lot of the money that's within these systems have been here ever since I guess like slavery ended. Like J.P. Morgan, for example, he like just his whole family, like that money, like within that company. I mean, everyone who's kind of involved with like the C-suite of that company, they've been there for a while. And like, yeah, there's people who come from the outside and they make it up the ladder through that way. But a lot of the money and like a lot of the decision making in a lot of these big companies has been going on for a long time. So it's not something you can just go in and be like, all right, we're going to change this. We're going to make this legislation, this law, and like it has to change now. It's going to take a while. So it's not
Yeah,
that
and
simple.
it's not like people aren't working hard. Dude, my family worked. I work hard. I didn't get here because I just hung out and they needed a white guy, and they're like, "Hey, well, how are you? Because you're white." Like I worked hard, but I worked hard, and I got lots of jobs in my life. I just don't know which ones of those jobs I actually got because of my skin or because I actually was qualified and worked hard. Like I don't know that. But all I know is when we do these kinds of studies and when we put hidden cameras up and we watch people, the way they treat, the way somebody will walk into a room and treat you, and the way they walk into a room and treat you and treat somebody else, when we do that, we almost always see distinct differences. And when we want to highlight and identify some kinds of patterns of discrimination, we almost always see, well, we always see discrimination if we set it up, where you get people to treat people in two different ways. Or treat them, to act toward them in the same way, and then see if there's a difference on the basis of whether they're in a wheelchair, or they're a woman, or they're LGBT, or whatever the case is. So it doesn't mean that we're screwed. It doesn't mean we're a terrible society. It doesn't mean men suck, or straight people suck, or white people suck, or able-bodied people suck, or terrible, or whatever. It doesn't mean we're mean, or whatever. My family, your family, I don't know, Russell's family. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is it exists. And if it exists, then okay, then let's think about it. And then, bro, what happens with you is when you send out a tweet like you sent out, which is a funny tweet and stuff, right? But you got to understand, you're talking to white people who don't see this. And if they don't see this, you are never going to convince anybody that discrimination is real. If you don't point out the ways in which we systematically study it. And when we systematically study it, we see it, we encounter it, it's all around us. If you don't point that stuff out, we don't make any progress. And so what I get a lot are kind of, I don't know, the kind of leftist, progressive, social activist, social justice population, even in a place like Penn State, all about social justice, all about talking about this stuff. But it's like, look, you can talk about it to the end of the world, but you got to get people to see it. And so it means you got to learn to talk about it in a way that people will see it. And if people see it, then once you confront it, it's like you confront it here, Russell has to confront it, I have to confront it, and then now I got to do something about it. I got to think about it. Dude, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, man. Hey, you guys can, you can just sit down. Hey, I'm going to see if anyone has a question.
Cool.
Dude, check that out. Yeah, no, I'm not. I know, I'm just going to burn that other stuff. I'll do it later. Who has a question?
Yo, this is
Who
crazy. Y'all should read
bro.
this.
All right, so this isn't really a question to you, but you can answer it if you want. because I
Wait,
feel
who's
like-
the mic? I can't even see.
Yeah,
Right
sorry,
here.
right here.
Can you stand up? I can't even see. Oh, okay, there you go.
All right, so this isn't directly to you, but I feel like you might be able to answer it pretty well. How much of the last statistics for the callbacks between black and white males, I think it's just males,
Yeah.
how much of those statistics do you think are mainly based off of, and this might be obvious, the fact that the interviewee might majority be white? And if so, another follow-up question to that, do you think it's getting better?
Do I think it's getting better?
Yeah, don't do the second question. I'll answer the first question. Most of the interviewees, the people who got the resumes, were white, but not all of them were. And when we see this discrimination, we see it all around, by the way. Black and brown people are less likely to discriminate. And by the way, white people, we've also done these testers. Here's another audit that we do all the time. And then you can think about your answer to his other question if you think it's getting better. We do these same audit studies where we're testing whether black and brown people are as likely to exhibit discriminatory or racist behavior as white people. Okay, got it? Because we're testing them too, right? Because it's not just about white people. And what we find is while there is racist and discriminatory behavior among black and brown people, it's more prevalent among white people. So if you're sitting with the idea that, well, but they'll just turn it around and they'll just discriminate against us, and so then we'll be on the bottom. Actually, that doesn't appear to be the case. And I'm telling you that from doing this research. Bro, you think it's getting better? Wait, why are you asking him? He's 21 years old. Go ahead. Do you think it's getting better?
So to answer your question, I wouldn't say anything is getting better. I would say that people are becoming more aware of things.
Yeah.
But in that same breath, that won't, to me, necessarily mean that things are getting better. And I say that because of the fact that, I mean, we just stood here and watched that people who literally have the same qualifications or whatever it might be, but one went to jail and one didn't go to jail, or one was convicted of something and one didn't, one is white and one is black. The fact that that can still happen in the United States today in 2019, and we could literally even do studies and try to see whether that could happen, whether it does happen. I firmly believe it does. I wouldn't say it gets better, but I would say that we're aware of it. And an issue to me is the fact that we're aware that these things are happening, but the powers that be kind of allow that.
Nah, listen, dude.
So, yeah.
No, be optimistic, my friend. The fact is, when the more people, like say in a room like this, can be aware of it, the more then we can take responsibility for our own actions. Like I take
of course.
responsibility for mine.
Of course, but and the
No,
federal
there's
government
power.
is responsible for their actions. So
All
it's
right.
still the issue to me.
Hang on, Heaven has a question.
It's not really a question. It's like a statement, I guess. Like the whole when you ask, what do you think they could do? I guess
Yeah.
opposed to that, I honestly don't think they could do anything, just because it's like a social norm almost. It's kind of like, you know how people preach so much about feminism, and it's for the longest time, men still think, they're dominant to women. Like, not sometimes they don't mean to be specific. Like, they don't mean to be. Some people don't mean to be racist. Some people don't mean to be discriminant. But like automatically, the social norm,
Well,
white people are dominant over black people.
okay,
So it's
lem-
just like it's as simple as that.
let me help. Let me just give my 2 cents on that. Feminism, and by the way, if you're in this classroom, feminism is the basic idea that men should not dominate women in all spheres of life, right? Doesn't mean feminism is not that men and women are equal in everything, right? It doesn't mean that. It means that in fundamental ways, men and women are equal and should be treated with respect and equally. And if you're in this classroom, you're probably a feminist. And you may define feminism in some way that it only gets defined by a narrow portion of the population. But you're a feminist. Come on, man. If you're here, are you kidding me? Especially if you're a woman in this classroom, you're a feminist. You're at Penn State. The fundamental premise of feminism is that women would go to college and things like this, right? Okay. We've made a lot of positive movement. And so we also have in the world of race. We've really made a lot of, because race relations, because people have really learned some things or gotten some things. Listen, I got to do the pack back thing. Bro, what's your quick question really fast? Yeah.
What do you think about the concept of white guilt?
What do I think about white guilt?
Can I answer that?
Oh, God. White guilt is understandable. Bro, and you know what? Dude, I'm going to come back to it. Black people always hate white guilt. But black people, y'all do so much to try to get white people to feel guilty. It's pathetic, really. Come on, man. So, yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah, I'll come back to that. Oh, yeah, black people. I got you on that one,
yeah, black
man.
people. Shut up.
Anyway, no, wait. You don't leave yet, because we're going to do a pack back thing. No, we'll come back. We'll talk about white guilt. All right, anyway, yeah, we'll come back to it. Listen, pack back really fast. Let's do the following. Let's do the following. No, listen up. I want to say something. Hey, Sean, by the way, nice job, my friend. All right.